He was on mute. What a guy. Like, I've not done this before. Regular viewers and listeners will know that we have this love for our opening theme tune, and it has caused some discussion with a previous guest, Steve Folger, who picked me up on the fact that I said that drumming is really, really easy. So now what I have here are two little sticks on my desk to try and play the drum beat that is in our opening sting. And I have no idea whether I'm doing it right because, like, just hitting stuff in it, drumming. There you go. You'll pick me up on that. I expect a WhatsApp very shortly.
Unlike you, I've taken drum lessons. I have taken drum lessons.
Oh.
My joke was I could play any ZZ Top song ever written, which is not really true, but I can do the basic beat that ZZ Top uses in all of their songs.
I don't. The only ZZ Top song I really know is the one from Back to the Future 3. That's the only ZZ.
I don't know what that one is.
I don't even think it's like a thoroughbred ZZ Top song. It's just like it's like da, 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 da. It's like it's literally just to play for like the fair they have in the Western kind of era. Anyway, less of that. Can you play a little game of Spot the Difference with me? What's different about Toby's backdrop?
Are you asking me?
Well,
Is it like
no one else here. I'm asking you.
Well, it's like the kids, the kids shows where you pause for a second and then you're like, it's right. It's Toby's lights are a different color.
That is the whole Dora the Explorer thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you point on the map to where the cave is? Well done! That's right. Even if you're pointing the wrong thing, Dora always thinks you got it right. Like, Dora, you're adorable, but like I got it wrong. I was pointing at the tree.
So I do need to back up for a second though, because there was a moment where I was like getting really into the theme song and like bopping my head around, and I look over in the little thumbnail and I can see that you were doing the same thing, and it was so much fun. Like, we're having fun even when we're not even on camera.
Just making waves across the ocean. My King Kong wrestling jacket is missing. The coat is not there.
It's not the color.
No, it's not the color. My King Kong coat is in the house because last week King Kong got a little bit of an outing for the first time in 2 years. I hit a guy with a tray. That was fun.
And you both survived with no physical injuries from your fake your antics, staged antics, staged antics.
It's fake.
It wasn't the right word. It's like when people say fake flowers and I would get mad because I was a florist. I apologize. No, like this, like it's choreographed, right?
Yes. No, we both were unscathed. We did it safely. I gave my opponent, the Mindful Menace is his name, but Mr. J. Unwin, we had a little discussion about what we're going to do. He threw me into a chair. I threw myself into a speaker stand. I hit him with a tray. He chokeslammed me into a table. Did that at a HR conference, world first, the Evolving HR conference last year. We had the world's first stage dive at a HR conference. We're like, how do we better that? We had the first wrestling match at a HR conference. Goodness knows what we're going to do next year. But that's why the coat's missing. I forgot to bring it back.
Aww. It'll be good. Now you can wear it around the house a little bit, let the kids enjoy it, and then bring it back.
It's so warm and cozy. Like, it's just like, it was so cold in the UK. It still is, and it's just like, I'm just gonna. It's like a big blanket because I ordered like 4XL, and it is a men's coat, and it's just like, oh, this is just like a big cuddly blanket, which is very, very different to my wrestling persona. So we got a chap, we got a guest. And he's got
we're just making him stay back there, which is
this is just a podcast where we're going to talk for 60 minutes and we'll bring him on for the last 30 seconds. No, Peter has the best last name of a podcast guest so far. Callie, do you want to introduce? Because you introduced me to him, so I feel like you know him better than I do. So you should go ahead and introduce our lovely friend Peter.
Yeah, no, Peter and I have been longtime LinkedIn friends, and I don't think we're going to find a better last name ever. So that's going to definitely be a goal, I think, for our next podcast guests, is to try to top Peter Laughter as a cool name.
So excited to be talking with you guys.
Like we have had this one in the diary for so long, and it's just the one me and Callie keep talking about. Is like, I can't wait till we get to talk to Peter, because actually, I don't think the three of us have actually talked together.
No.
No.
Which is crazy because we've had so many conversations in this kind of Brady Bunch style like diagram that we've got going on here that it feels like we should have done that, but we haven't. But hey ho, we're here now doing it live.
That is a good start. Now we can keep it going. You and WhatsApp, Peter.
Ooh, I am always overwhelmed with my digital communications, so I am occasionally really good at responding to WhatsApp messages. Yeah.
All right, we got to get a WhatsApp channel going.
Yeah, if you end up in a WhatsApp group with myself and Callie, you're going to be bombarded with voice notes that will range from 5 to 10 seconds to somewhere between 8 and 9 minutes. We like to call them mini podcasts or annoying voice notes.
Either one, whatever works. I've taken to making like these walking videos to people. Yeah, which I like a lot.
Oh, that's really nice. I like that. Have you done walking meetings?
Oh, I have ADHD, so that's like a real critical component. My former business partner, Val, we were in Manhattan, at the edge of Broadway, right by where the statue of the Big Bull that, if you go to New York, you have to take a picture of it. Yeah. And then, so there's Battery Park, all great places to walk. But when it was really cold, there was the Smithsonian Museum of the Native American. And that was our cold weather walk and meeting. But Val figured out that I am much more focused when there are things happening around me that can occupy the demon of my ADHD brain. Yeah.
Me and my business partner tried to do walking meetings, but I live in the middle of nowhere. I live in the Wisconsin of the UK, and essentially there's just no mobile or cell phone signal. So we tried it once, and she's like, I can't hear you. We're not doing this. Just call me when you're back at home. And I was like, okay. And now I know that walking meetings aren't the thing, free forms between me and Emily, because I ruin it for everybody.
Well, your love of the Green Bay Packers makes sense because you live in the Wisconsin of the UK.
I like cheese, heavy drinking, and the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
You might as well move to Wisconsin.
Yeah, exactly.
Believe you me, there are conversations that are happening in a very much one way. I'm telling my family this stuff, and they're going, no, we're not going to live in Wisconsin. Why would we do that? So we'll just have to visit every now and again, which is probably for the best.
If you do bring your family to Wisconsin, I definitely want rights on the sitcom of that move. Yeah.
Yeah. The last time we were there, I bought the cheese heads.
Yes.
I didn't realize at Lambeau Field they do like kids versions, and so they have little cheese heads, which is adorable. And they go around saying "Go Pack Go" in little kids' voices. They have no idea why they're saying it, but they put the hat on, they say "Go Pack Go," and like, I could not be prouder. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the most amazing football team in all of NFL history. We're here to talk about the world of work and why it sucks by asking you hard-hitting, deep-diving, sucky questions about your career to date. We haven't discussed who's going to go first, so I'm going to ask the first question, Peter. Can you tell us about the worst interview you've ever been part of? You can be the interviewer or the interviewee. It doesn't matter. But the worst interview you've been part of.
Okay. So, I mean, I think, I was in the recruiting and staffing industry. So, yes, there's interviews that I have conducted that have made me want to chew my arm off. They're too frequent to be memorable in any way. But and I got very good at just excising it from my memory as soon as it happened. Anywho, but I do remember one of my early interviews when I was job seeking. Yeah, I was like 23 years old and I wanted to be a social worker. And I applied to was a halfway house, which is when people are like, they're not quite ready to be released from prison, they go here and they have certain privileges, but not many. And it's very clear that it's a prison light. And so I want to be a social worker. I'm right out of college. I don't have a master's in social work, and I'm applying to every job I can get, as you do. And I get brought in for this interview, but the person who scheduled me for the wrong time. So I'm late. Yeah. And they didn't tell me it's a group interview. Yeah. And, so I get there and I have to fill out the application, but the only place to fill out the application is in the TV lounge. And so I'm surrounded by inmates, and I know they're inmates because they're not allowed to wear shoes. So I'm the only shod person in this room with, this is 1993. So there's, some music video channel on, not MTV. I think it was VH1, really loud, and people talking. And I'm trying to fill out this application, and then I have ADHD. I'm uncomfortable, and then I go into this interview and find out that not only is a very large group interview, but I am the least qualified person in the room. Yeah. And in hindsight, I realized what the interviewer was doing, but I was too dense and too freaked out to pick it up on time. But they're going through like having people introduce themselves in this group of, well, I have a master's in social work. I've worked in these environments for several years. I have so much more experience than that loser kid right out of college. Yeah. I mean, it was just like, they didn't say that, but that's what I was hearing. It was terrible. And they get to me and the guy looks at my resume, as if it's like for the first time. He's like, daycare center? You worked in a daycare center? And you think you could work here? These are hardened criminals. What the hell do you think you get? And what I should have said is, look, buddy, you're the one who called me in here. So before you start wasting my time in front of all these nice people, pay attention to my resume before you schedule me for an interview. Yeah, thank you very much. But yeah, and what I lack in experience, I totally make up for in whatever. Yeah, that's what I should have said. What I did say, I have no idea. It was horrible. It just like crumbled like a house of cards. It was terrible. But I learned something really important about interviewing, is that sometimes if you don't have the right answer, a memorable answer is better.
And as testament to memorable answers, that was quite a memorable answer. The thing I forgot to mention, the thing I love about you, Peter, is your way with words. The fact straight out of the gate we had the phrase, I'd rather chew my own arm off. Which is not one I've not heard a recruiter say that one before. I've not heard anyone say that one before. And then you were the only shoed person. I don't know if that is that an actual phrase, but that is
shod.
I was a shod. Yeah. You were the only shod person.
Yeah,
a phrase again I've never heard before. But
and I think it's the first time I've ever used that word in a podcast. Sorry, Callie.
I want to hear about this daycare. How long did you work in a daycare?
Oh, it was awesome. It was a college job, and it was they had set up a cooperative daycare center for professors' kids on campus, and so I think it was about a year. It was a great job. I mean, it was at the age, I was 19. It was just like, go play with kids for 2 hours, like. And you're going to pay me for this? Awesome. Yeah.
What did you have for lunch? Did they provide lunch, and did you eat what the kids ate?
I did not eat what the kids ate. It was usually, I was like kind of afternoon, like when the teacher was like, I can't take it anymore. And the parents came and picked up. So
interesting.
I still don't understand why you would, I mean, I get on the surface why you would be like, you don't qualify for working here, but like, that is a hard job that involves a lot of multitasking.
I'm really clear that he was actually trying to throw me a lifeline, that he was actually trying to, in hindsight and after interview experience, he was testing me. And I think what he was hoping is that I would be able to come to his criticism and get in his face a little bit, would need to do on the job. And so I think actually it was a very deliberate move. Or at least I hope so. Because of the
There's Peter giving people the benefit of the doubt, even 30 years later.
You have to think that if you're going to pull that move, let's say you failed the test, you have to then tell the person that. You can't just go, well, I won't tell them it was a test. I will allow them to think that that's just what it's like. And you're like, no, you should I don't know. It feels like, because otherwise I say I would live my life going.
Let's play this out, Toby. So if he had said, "Wah wah," wrong answer, I would have felt so much worse. Like, I would have been like, all right, I'm going to go die now. Thank you.
Fair enough. Okay.
Did he do that to anybody else?
No. He was like, but he didn't really interact with. Oh, we maybe asked like a very mild follow-up question. Like he went hard on me, and that's what I was. That's why I was like, oh, I am the least experienced person here. There are plenty of the people I see working here who don't look much different than I do. And the people around the table look a lot older than me. And when you're 23, like 27 is ancient. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back in those times, did you still have this magnificent beard that you're rocking now?
No, I had hair. I wasn't I wasn't compensating back then.
I talk about compensating for the lack of facial hair. We just go up. I go up.
Any day I will trade with you. Any day. Yeah. It's actually not true at all, but it's a funny joke. Yeah.
If anyone's watching like the video version of this podcast, if you turn my head upside down, I probably look like Peter and vice versa. That's kind of what we're the direction of travel is kind of
where you put eyes on your chin and you go film yourself upside down talking.
Next podcast we're on together. That's what we're doing. I'm going to flip our screens and do that. That is a sucky interview experience, though. I think
especially at that period of time when you're like grasping at straws for I need something.
Yeah.
You're just working horrible temp jobs to make your way, just trying to start your career. Yeah.
But there is a common theme on this podcast that like group interview experiences never seem to be actually beneficial to anybody. Like it just seems like operationally it might seem like, it's a really easy way to evaluate lots of people in one go, but then like obviously you're not looking at the resumes properly, and then you draw people into these. Like how long was this kind of group interview experience? Because we had one, I can't remember who it was, Callie, but like it was literally a whole day. They were there for a whole day and treated like garbage, and you're like, why would anyone ever sign up for that? So I'm curious, how long was the interview?
Beginning to end, just a couple hours.
Okay.
But I remember I could not leave fast enough. I remember the question. I remember filling out the application and with my ADHD and like feeling of danger and then being all like nervous for the interview. And this guy jumped me. It was awesome. I just remember like, get out. Like as soon as like, it was like, all right, interview's over. I think I was running. Yeah.
I think you had a lucky escape because he seemed like he was going to be a pretty bad boss.
It set me on a trajectory that I did not want to be on. So yeah, I'm grateful.
I think that's one of the most fascinating things about careers in general is just like, what are the curveballs you didn't expect that led you to where you are that you can't be more thankful for?
Now I'm thinking of all those. This isn't a podcast about me, but there are certain moments where I go, yes. These key moments, good or bad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, you both are so fun and interesting and cool. So you can't have a podcast that you're hosting that you're not telling stories on. I mean, this wouldn't work.
I think every there's like 2 or 3 bosses I've worked for that have been any good, but like the majority of them are absolute garbage. But that's been a good thing because it's like, well, I know what bad bosses look like, so I won't be you. It's really beneficial to have had all these shitty experiences because it's like, well, what I do and how I operate makes me a better person, a better version of me, not a better person than them, but a better version of me because I have this awareness and empathy of these shitty situations that I would never want to consciously put someone through, a la your interview experience, like, right? Like you'd never drag someone through that as a result of how it feels to be on the receiving end. The thing that really pisses me off though is that there are certain individuals that lack that self-awareness and empathy that they don't even know they're doing in the first place, so they don't have that capacity to reflect and change, and they are the worst, 100% the worst bosses that I've worked with because they're just like, you don't even know what you've done and you're talking to me like you haven't done anything. It's like, how ignorant are you?
Well,
and I've got a list of names which I won't say.
that is the structure in which we are in. And I think and we're totally off topic. So I'm going to tell this, remind me, I'm going to tell the story after the next question.
Well, then let's get into the next question. Tell us about your worst boss.
Oh my God. So this guy I worked for an exceedingly long time, and he was unrelenting in his constant criticism. And I don't know why I just took it the whole time, but it was just whatever I did, it was never, ever good enough. And it was, and at all hours, he would remind me of things that I had forgotten to do and put pressure on the things that I was planning on doing and hadn't gotten to. It was unrelenting. He was a maniac. And even if I did something really well, moments after I finished it, he would criticize it like crap. He was an awful human being. It's me. I work for myself, and I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. Yeah, and I love that question because I literally was the worst person for me to work for. And it was like all of those things I said. I'm completely unrelenting in myself. I'm constantly criticizing myself. But I started my entrepreneurial career at 25 years old. And I actually think that what you're talking about is leaders not knowing how bad they are as leaders is endemic to the command and control systems that we deploy our work. I think it's impossible. I sold the company in 2016, a staffing company that worked with primarily investment banks, Wall Street Services. And I sold it to this great guy, Andy, who I'd known for a while. The business had become commoditized and I really wanted to be more bespoke. And so I sold the Wall Street Services part, and I carved out this small consultancy focus staffing agency. Andy, the guy who sold the previous company, invested into the new company, and which was great because we didn't have a lot of cash. Staffing industry need a lot of cash, and so he owned 55%. So the first time in my life after 25 years, I kind of had a boss, but not really, but kind of. And he turned part of the deal, the original deal with Wall Street Services, the lease went to him, and I, with the new company, got 5 desks for a year in that new space. And it was fascinating because I was in conquered space. It used to be my office. Suddenly it's his office, and doing all these things to it. And he uses it for his incubator, all the companies that he's starting. So there's like 3 companies in the space. And one of the guys had a daughter who went to school, and they had a international fair, and she was making Greek food, and it was a Friday afternoon. So he was like, come, have some spanakopita and we'll hang out. And so Friday afternoon, 2:00, we all treps out. And me being me, around 3:00, I'm like anxious. I got to get back to work. So me and my partner go back to the office, and there in the office is my investor, who just happened to show up at 3:00 on a Friday afternoon and find everybody who worked for his company gone. So it's like, I walk in, I'm like, oh, this isn't good. And he immediately jumps up and he walks right to me. He says, do you have a second? And brings me to the conference room and closes the door. And I immediately think, holy crap, I'm going to get fired. And I go into like a blind panic attack. And meanwhile, my partner is like, oh God, Friday afternoon, talking to the investor, this isn't good. And then people start trickling in and they're like, uh-oh, Friday afternoon conference room, closed door, this isn't good. So everyone's nervous. I'm panicking, trying to do my breathing to relax. And he just wanted my help in another area of his business. It was nothing. And I realized that I had done that same thing. Hey, got a second? Brought someone to a conference room and closed the door, and didn't even occur to me that they would be thinking my job's on the line. Like, it never occurred to me until that moment that I was having the experience. And it was like, holy crap, I am such a jerk. Like, hey, nothing's wrong. But there's some things I'm trying to work out and I could use your advice. Do you got a moment? Like, that's how I should have opened. But as a leader, my view of myself is a very open, nice guy. And I just assume that that's how people see me. And it's friggin' not. And so I think when you look at the information that funnels up to leaders, it's sanitized, it's scrubbed. No one wants to be the messenger who gets shot. So even if someone is trying to give some negative feedback, like, hey, when you call someone in your office or in a conference room on Friday afternoon, you should start with that there's nothing wrong, or give a reason for it right off, because people think this. Like, even like, who would say that to their boss? Most people can't.
Yeah.
And the people who would say, you might want to give a little more of a heads up as to agenda. Just saying. Like, that's the most they're going to get. Yeah.
I was at Warsaw Airport this morning, and I got a message from my business partner, Emily, and it just said, do you have time for a chat? And I went, oh no, what's that? Oh, I don't want to even talk to you now, because this conversation is going to be awful. But the very thing was like, just need to ask you like this thing, just need some advice on this thing, responding to this email, doing this kind of thing. I was like, oh, is that it? Like, I have just spent 10 minutes catastrophizing this, going, I'm going to put this off, I was like, no, I better do it. And it's just like, then the other one, an old boss of mine, and my dad does this as well. I don't think my dad listens to this, so we should be fine. But like, hey, Toby, like, just using that in like a text message, like, no one, I don't know, but no, you don't need to say, hey, Toby, we're in a one-on-one conversation here, that we know who we're talking to each other. Hey, Toby, I just wanted to tell you, da-da-da-da. And you're just like, oh, I just need to do da-da-da. And they're like, my boss and my dad do it. And each time it gives me the chills, because I'm like, oh, something bad's coming. But
they have no clue.
Yeah, right. And that's the crazy thing, that you can't really. Yeah, there's very, like you say, the environment of work it kind of prohibits you from having like a very simple, productive conversation that would make everybody's lives better. I can't remember, we talked about, I think we mentioned marriage counseling in a previous episode. Marriage counseling is just getting the two people to talk to each other about like what's annoying them, what works, what doesn't work, and all that kind of stuff. Because ordinarily,
if I can add talk and listen, because usually one person is very good at one thing and the other is not good at that same thing.
That's why me and Callie are good at hosting a podcast, because one of us is really good at talking and the other one is very good at listening. Try and guess which way round it is.
I'm not saying nothing.
I think this is the only time where I'm the quieter one.
This is true. This is true. Well, you teed it up, so we have to ask the next question. Like, the worst training course you've ever been on. Like, you've said you've got an answer for this straight out of the gate. So let's dive into it.
Yeah, so this is one I'm definitely not going to mention names on. So I took an amazing course in public speaking. It was ridiculously good as a newly minted public speaker, and I needed to figure out how to sell myself as a public speaker, which was totally new to me. And they offered a very, very expensive course, which was absolutely horrendous. It was basically an online course that they were pretending it wasn't. That was ridiculously expensive, but it was one designed for people who were much more advanced than I was. So right out of the gate, I was like, here's how you want to edit your website. I'm like, edit? I don't have one. Like, what do I need to put? Like it was like, just right out of the gate. But two, it was designed for people who were well up, but it was also designed from the perspective of speakers who have made it, who are making, $25,000 to $40,000 a talk. So the information that they have was for those folks to build a business, but not someone like me who's just breaking in, which is a totally different set of groups. So it was expensive, it was poorly run, and they ran it through TAs, and my TA was wonderful, but she didn't know the material well enough. So there was something that I didn't understand. It's like, why are you asking me to do this now? This at my stage of development doesn't make sense. Well, there was a very specific reason that was availed to me 3 weeks later, but she couldn't answer the question. Oh, you do it because this is important later. Yeah. And you're creating this messaging. Yeah. She couldn't give that information. She just kind of said, yeah, it's useful. Yeah. And so 3 weeks later, I'm like, oh, now I got to go back and do that thing that I didn't understand. So
I think that's such a great point of just needing to actually know well, one, who your audience is, so maybe you weren't the right audience for this, but where they're at and what does make sense for them. Because I feel like it's a lot of times you undershoot and you're explaining things at way too foundational of a level, and people are like, why am I wasting my time? Or it's just completely off base. So like I'm doing a lot of trainings now on how to ask for money from a nonprofit standpoint. And it's from all these big people who've worked in foundations that have all sorts of constituents already. And it's like, that's an entirely different game than me in this tiny little grassroots nonprofit where I have to beg people for $5.
Yeah.
We should not be taking the same course. And it's taken me way too long to realize I'm not the problem. The problem is that this is not the right course for me to be in.
And I think it's that same dynamic from that. Like one of the piece of advice that I got was, from that course is, conference organizers don't like to be cold called. So don't do it. You want to be referred to them. And so you have to build all these really complicated engines to get referred to them. And then I meet all these speakers. They're like, yeah, I cold call conference organizers all the time. What are you talking about? And then I hear conference organizers talk and they say, oh, we hate it when men speakers cold call us, because all they do is talk about themselves without acknowledging me. Like, oh, it's not that I don't contact them directly. It's that I need to do so with a considerable amount of nuance and understanding. Yeah.
I just ran a training course on that exact topic, on cold calling, 3 weeks ago. And it's like, people hate it. Oh, I hate doing, we have to do 10 cold calls a week. Like, first of all, that's nothing. I can knock that out on Monday morning and then go on with the rest of my week. But the reason that you don't like it is because you've got in your head, cold calling is the thing you're doing. It not like checking in with someone, seeing how they're doing. Like, even if it was just that, all of a sudden you frame the conversation very, very differently. And this is why cold calling, yes, you're picking up a phone, speaking to someone, but so you're completely right. As soon as you just absorb the narrative is about you, then you've already lost. You're not part of a conversation.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to bring it back to our work topic, and I think that is we have been operating in this command and control structure for, I think, several thousand years. A management principle that was developed when sovereigns were the only people who had information, and they needed to make sure that illiterate peasants didn't plant the wrong crops in the wrong way and starve the entire community. Like, we needed this level of control. We don't anymore, but yet we're still operating under this. And so we have, these systems that are designed by the top for the top, and they don't trickle down. And people wonder why. Is, well, we're starting in the wrong place, and our understanding of how control actually works, hasn't been updated in a while. I mean, we're no one is managing illiterate peasants, and we all have this magical device in our pocket that has a flashlight and a camera. And the entire compendium of human knowledge.
Yeah, like knowledge is now democratized in such a way that it has never done before, and therefore it's the great equalizer, which is super exciting. I look forward to whole industries being burnt down, or being not necessarily burnt down, but certainly large swathes of part of those industries. The legal industry, I think, is rife for it, right? It's like when I started the process of trying to become a lawyer, and I went, I cannot be bothered. I cannot be bothered spending all my time acquiring all this case law and knowledge. The thing I wanted to do was build, problem solve and story tell and build compelling, cases out of all that knowledge. But I had to spend 7 years acquiring the knowledge. And now it's like, well, I don't need to bother acquiring the knowledge now, because I can just dip in and find the thing that I need, weave stories and narratives out of it. That's the human bit that AI can't do. So it's just going to change everything. And I think it's going to change everything for the better.
I agree with you. I think there's going to be a bumpy road, and it's interesting. Most of the conversations about things are horrible and are going to fall apart are coming from a perspective that I think it's missing a lot. Yeah. We as humans, when we look back, I look back at my 22 or 3-year-old self in that interview, and I know what to do. I don't even recognize that kid. I'm so different from him. But when I look at myself 20 years in the future, I think it's me as I am right now, just moving slower and with more wrinkles. And, but I'm going to be a totally different person again, but I can't imagine that transformation. So I just assume it's not going to happen. And I think we do the same thing with when we look at what our society is. Well, we don't look at exponential change. We don't understand it. Like, it's a hard thing for our brain. And we are in the just the beginning part of that S curve on so many different technologies. So, it's going to be wildly different than we expect. That's for sure.
Profound as always. Like, just listen to you talk about a whole range of topics, but we got to get to question number 4. Callie, what's question number 4?
Yeah, tell us about your worst first day.
I've only had 2 or 3 really. Yeah. And I think that I don't have a worst. Like, I think they were all pretty good. But everything, my all first days are, like, the very first one was as an entrepreneur. I left social work and I, started this business, and it was just like, okay, now I don't know where the roadmap is. And then when I sold my last staffing company, and I was trying to figure out on my path to do now, I started a coaching business, and it was the same thing. Like, see what we do here. All kind of exciting. I had one job, worked for a consulting firm, and that first day was pretty good. So I don't know I don't know how the first, but I will tell you so I worked for a consulting firm. I was interested in distributed leadership, and they did that. And it was a nice group of folks, but we weren't suited. They were a little chaotic and a little planned. So I was just there for 3 months, but that first, like, right out of the gate, leaving that, and I had no idea what I was going to do. And that was the first time in my life. I was like, crap, now what? And that part sucked, because I just didn't know, and had to figure it out on the fly pretty quickly.
So we've both had our first days of, okay, I'm doing this by myself. Now what am I doing? So lots of nodding. But for other people that are, like, on the cusp of that and knowing that that's the direction they're heading, what would you say, like, is the best? What is the advice that you would give to someone who's about to have their first day of entrepreneurship?
Don't do it. Go back. Get a job.
Well, Toby, I've had one job, since I was 24, and I lasted 3 months. So, my feeling is the opposite of that. Is because, like, I blew yesterday off. My daughter came into town. I had some work to do. But I was just like, I'm just not going to do any work. And, and I was like, oh crap, I got a Zoom call in 10 minutes. I got to get home. It was awesome. Yeah. Everything worked out, but I couldn't do that if I had a job. Yeah. And then I'd have to deal with more horrible bosses, as opposed to the one I've already got, which is enough. So but I would say the advice I would give is every day you have to sell.
I think
That's
like,
really
yeah,
good advice.
like I don't know, even if you would tell me that at the beginning of the journey, that I would still get it. I get it now. That's such a small, short sentence. I go, yeah, you're so right. You're so right. Because in the beginning, it's like, oh, I need to get the website done. I need to get the logo. I need to get this. It's like, no, that is all superfluous bullshit. You need to sell yourself. You need to talk to people. You need to be talking to people all the freaking time about what you do, why you do it, how you do it, because no one knows. No one knows, and a website will not do that for you. A social media posts are not going to do that for you.
Oh, yeah.
People will make you think it will be, but it's actually, you need to just go out there and tell people what you're doing as much as you can and as quickly as possible.
And that like all the other things, the website, the business cards, the logo, like that's the stuff you want to do. And that's like what you think, like, I have an LLC, I have a website, I have a company. No, you have an LLC and a website. That's it. Like, unless you have people, if you know how to find the people who have the problems that you can solve and are willing to pay you to solve them for it, those things are just dressing. Yeah. And it's the work that we don't like to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one more tangent on that. I feel like I've talked to so many entrepreneurs who kind of feel like they get past that, and then they realize that as the founder or whatever, the original person, like that's actually the thing that you have to keep doing, because no one's going to be able to do it the way that you do it.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I think it changes, right? Yeah, because I think like right now, I have to talk to anyone and everyone who might hire speakers and find ways to get that. Yeah, and I've got to do that every day. I don't particularly like doing that. And so, all the other stuff that I have on my list are much more interesting and exciting. And there are also things that I can start and complete. Yeah. Whereas sales, I'm going to reach out to a lot of people, and maybe one of them will say yes. And that's very different. I don't know when I'll be done. I can say, when I bring in this amount of contracts, sure, but I'm setting up an MPC server, to connect Claude to my CRM. I know that'll take about a half hour. But getting a new client, no idea how long that's going to take.
The massive unknown element. We're just dipping into the comments. So Christina is joining us. Christina is a new name in the comments that I've not seen before. Agreeing with a lot of the stuff we've said about group interviews and walking meetings, but has just come in with yes, full stop or period. Sell every darn day. I think that what you said there resonates. Also, we have someone from Uganda in chat as well, which is very cool. I don't think we've had anybody from Uganda join us, so welcome. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege to be talking to the whole world. And talking about the whole world, no, this tangent's not going to work. This isn't going to work. But what's the worst thing you've been asked to do at work? I was trying to make a link there, and there wasn't one.
So I remember horrible boss. So I've asked myself to do these, but I think the thing I hated doing the most, and it was an important period. So my mom had a staffing business in the 80s that was admin focused, and it was very, very low volume, ridiculously high margins. Yeah. So she would, and then in the recession of the 80s, all of that business disappeared and staffing was consolidated, and she just lost her shirt. And I started selling during the social worker. She had a night component to the business, working with law firms at 24-hour centers. And I, just to get into meet while I was a social worker, there wasn't a lot of business. So I was selling. And I discovered I had never been involved in sports as a kid, so I didn't know that I'm insanely competitive. And that sales really filled that desire. And then she asked me to join full time. And we turned the business from admin to professional staffing, did a lot of really cool things with it, and grew really quickly. But when we started, she was using an old Unix system to run the business and to run payroll in-house. And she was not at all technical, and it was Unix, so nobody knew how to use it. And so the backups were not running properly, and the system died. And because it was purchased in the rich 80s, and this was the poor 90s, the company had gone out of business. So and it was the week we had just landed JP Morgan as a client. And we had, with them, doubled our business from week to week. So we went from extremely low weekly billing to low weekly billing overnight. And so it was really, really complex. There's all these new people, and I had no payroll system. And I have both dyslexia and ADHD, and I had to cobble together something with paycheck, QuickBooks, and Excel. And it was the worst thing I've ever had to do in my life, because people get really weird when you get their payroll wrong. And I took a degree of concentration, and people kept saying, do you need anything? Or blah, blah. I was like, never talk to me when I'm doing this, because I hated it. So I was so happy when we moved beyond it.
I don't think we've ever had an answer that is so specific about a thing like payroll is super important. Like if you screw that up, you're screwing essentially with people's lives, because the knock-on effects and the ramifications are profound for someone's life. But like, and with the level of empathy and self-awareness you have, you understand that. But like, there are so many bosses I've worked for that have got payroll wrong, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll get it sorted next week. It's like, no. I haven't got till next week to wait for this to get sorted. I needed it sorted when the money was coming in already. That's when I needed it sorted, and that's when it should have been done. There's no deferring here. Get it sorted.
That's running a staffing agency. Like, you got to get people's pay right, and if you don't, you got to fix it immediately. Yeah, and that's I've never had patience for that. Yeah,
I think you're the nicest person ever to work in staffing. Which is a very low threshold, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm basically a dick, but well, the fact recruiting is broken and staffing is extractive. So the psychological trauma that I did to myself working in that industry for as long as I did and holding on for as long as I did was significant. So. Yeah.
You created the best transition to the next question, I think.
I don't remember the next question. No.
And I don't remember. Is it my turn to ask the question, or Callie's? We always do this. I forget which order we're in.
Yeah, no, I
think Callie knows the question, so she should ask.
Yeah,
it.
I'll just go for it. Yeah. No, you were just talking about all those little tiny things. So what's the easy change that would have just made everything so much easier?
Oh my God. This is an evolution for me. And it is this phrase, and I'll never forget it. It taught me the value of digital books. My mom bought me a Kindle right before I went on vacation with my family. I had a book, The Tree of Smoke. And I was like, I'm a third way. So I just started it, but I'm going to buy a new version on Kindle, so I don't have to drag all my books with me on vacation, this little sexy device. And it was a historical novel about intelligence in Vietnam. And they had a character, Buddhist monk, Viet Cong operative. And he said the phrase, I've always known that life is suffering, and suffering is the result of holding on to things that do not last. So I think the change is becoming aware of that which I am holding on to that does not last. And for me, I was holding on to, I stayed in the staffing industry that I literally hated. It was, but I was holding on to this idea that I would get a big giant payout out of it. And then I would get to do what I wanted to do. And letting go of that concept, which took me way the heck longer than it should have, was so liberating. And this, and since then, that, like, we have ideas about ourselves that are not necessarily true. And I'm not good at it, but I've gotten so much better at recognizing, like, oh, I have this expectation for myself or the world, or this belief in my own ability, which has been the latest big ones. I have ADHD and dyslexia because I'm super lucky. But it's like I've had a staff around me starting at 25 years old, and that'll mask a tremendous amount of dysfunction. And I work with some really brilliant people, so they're really good at masking my dysfunction. But on my own, it's like, why can't I get anything done? Oh, yeah. So I've had to relearn how I work, from scratch. So letting go quickly.
I see that in so many people holding them back, that inability to let stuff go. And for some people, it's you've held on for it for too many days or weeks or months. Some people, they've held on it for years, and they've held on. held onto it so tightly that I can't even envisage a world where they'd ever let it go. So to go on that journey yourself is incredible. The thing I reflect on in just let's go back to starting a company, right? There was so many things holding me back in the first 18 months that I did not even recognize. And now look back and I was like, God, why did I have that chip on my shoulder for so long? Like, if I just let go of that, progress may have been swift. I always try and think, I could have done this way quicker. Like, this has taken ages. This has taken far too long. I always try and think of what would have made it quicker. But there are those things where it's like, just get over yourself. Just get over yourself, because like no one gives a shit. But as much as you do about yourself, and therefore you've got to be able to let those things go, because everyone else has let them go, and it doesn't barely touch the sides. So,
but I also think that like we look back and say, oh, if I had only done that, and I think, but what we don't do is we don't stop and look and say, all right, so I wasted a bunch of time during that period of time, but I also gained a lot of ability that and I think we tend to wish for a different path rather than appreciating the one that we've had. And what I'm leaning into now, particularly at this stage of my entrepreneurial journey, is to recognize most things as beneficial, even if at the time they seem horrible. And because with enough perspective, they generally are. Yeah. And I recently had this experience where I had a potential partnership with someone to do a podcast, and he turned out to be quite dishonest. And there was a lot of technical connections that we had that I had to figure out how to unwind myself. In doing that, I learned so much. And whereas before I realized the benefit of the learning, which I had to do as a result of this relationship going pear-shaped, has given me so much. And when I was in the middle of it, being angry at it, if I could just borrow some of that gratitude that was happening that I knew would happen in the future, and just experience it, like, okay, I don't know what I don't see it, but I know this is going to be great, and have that faith. I think it would be a very different experience. And I think that is something that I would be more attentive to.
And so if you're holding on to some of this stuff, let's talk about recurring nightmares. Is there like this any recurring nightmares that you have as a result of work that you play over and over in your head that you wish you could let go of?
So for me, the anxiety of running a business that I was inherently not enjoying, and not like, I mean, like in the beginning when we were growing and moving really fast, it was great and I loved it. But then we got to this point and it was like, well, I've got a big company, but I'm really not making the world a better place. And and that slow erosion was it was a shitty existence. And then like running a staffing firm where you have to pay people every week, but your clients pay you 3 months from now. So it was like the things that I'm, so being like, I no longer have to do things that I hate, which is amazing. But also I don't have to manage payroll. Like I don't, like I don't have to look at the number of what people owe me and what I have to pay tomorrow, and panic about people, that. So that's the nightmare that I'm really glad I don't have anymore.
I think when I first started Freeform,
25 years staffing firm, never missed a payroll.
And I imagine you wouldn't, because based on everything you said, that does not surprise me at all. But like
even after 9/11, we made
in New York.
Oh, of course, yeah. Wow,
that's incredible.
Like 6 blocks away from the World Trade Center. So I do remember the night before payroll, someone yelling at me about where payroll was going to be. I'm just like, I'm in my bathroom because my entire family is staying in my apartment because they can't be in their house. Like at 11 o'clock at night, talking to someone yelling at me on September 11th. It was like,
wow. tricky to know where to go from that, but well, I was going to say that
It's a good conversation ender, but
yeah,
to the point that people do get crazy about their paycheck. It was like, yeah.
Well, yeah, you've got two very big things happening at, like, it's the perfect storm for things to go wrong and for you to step up, which you would have inevitably had to do in numerous facets of, being a boss, being, a person who has a family and friends in that situation. I think you have no other option really but to step up. Some people could shun it away and give excuses, but it feels like that's not in your nature. So it must have been a very cool experience to work for you, is what I could say. Is that like, apart from those moments where you're like inviting me into a boardroom and saying, I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
Closing the door and like, oh shit, what does he want now?
That's very generous of you. I was not a very good person to work for most of my career as a leader. I was ruled by anxiety and fear. So thank you. You're talking to the Peter now, but it wasn't always this way. And this was a long, hard fought place to be. And I'm by far not even close to being done cooked yet. But yeah, so.
When did you have that realization of, oh wow, I'm tough to work for? Other than that specific boardroom realization, of course.
Oh wow. So I was a victim of corporate espionage in 2003. And it was a big deal for me, and I spent a lot of time focusing on it, and it became a life-defining moment. It shouldn't have. And it was like I hired a guy who worked for a corporate raider who had a history of pulling people out of companies, who I had known about, because there had been some previous experience with him trying something pretty atrocious. So I was always afraid of him. And I ended up after 9/11, married 9/11, brother died, wife pregnant, all within 9 months. It was a rough year. And not to say that at a staffing company working with financial services. So, 50% of my business just disappeared overnight. So it was a really rough year. I hired this guy, Joe, and he was working for that industry raider. And he pulled NDA agreements. He was working with my assistants at the time. He pulled, it was, but I became paranoid and horrible to work for. And I remember, I had this employee, Andy, really, really, really smart, nice guy. His phone was ringing and I picked it up, and it was the voice of one of the people who were involved in that plot. So I thought, and I accused Andy. In a moment of, oh wow, look at that. That was
dramatic zoom.
That's your moment of discovering your camera.
Yeah. Apparently there's a hand gesture that controls that. Yeah. How about that? Anywho, and I thought it was one of the people involved in the plot, and I accused Andy of working with him, and he got horribly angry, understandably, and was so offended and walked out. And that was the beginning. I started getting counseling for anxiety, which was really helpful. And I learned skills to manage that. So I started becoming a less sucky person to work for, and, and letting go of a lot of the paranoia. But it was really until I understood that leadership was broken, which was several years later, that I realized that I had it wrong, that leadership is effervescent. And my job wasn't to be the one with the answer or the smartest person in the room, something that's never true. It was to facilitate the brilliance of the people around me and make sure that their ideas could surface easily, be heard, and then people could collaborate to sharpen those ideas. And then leading became joyous and fun. That was awesome. And so that last 5 years. I'm really clear I'm never going to be a CEO again. Mainly because I think the model is broken. So I think that idea where people work for me as opposed to people who work with me that'll never happen again. Yeah. So I think leadership happens in the moment on a project when there's something that I am particularly good at and the people that I am working with are not particularly good at. But the things that I suck at are significant. It's a long list. And so my ability to pass leadership off and to recognize that I should not lead everything. I should lead maybe that. And by leading, it's collaborating. Yeah. So
to go from that to the next question feels a little bit of a leap because, well, on two levels. The next question is about a coworker from hell. It sounds like in some of that story, there are some people that you've worked with that are absolute scumbags. Not the lovely guy that you had to go at, but the people.
Well, he was a definite. Well, yeah, I think he was the coworker from hell. Because the other thing too is he had orchestrated this plot where all my top performers left, but he was going to stay. Yeah. And do it again. Like help me rebuild and then do it again. Yeah. That was his plan. So this all happened while he was on vacation. And then he strolls in the next Monday, like, what's up? And I'm like, you're fired.
He Zuckerberged you. Zuckerberg before Zuckerberg was a thing.
I see. Yeah, he totally did. So yeah. One of the people who left ended up calling years later and apologizing, and gave me the whole story of what happened. So
wild.
The gift of closure is amazing. I'm impressed that you got it. Maybe closure is too strong of a word, but like getting to hear from the inside, like that's huge.
Well, it's a long story and one that I'm actually trying to put in my past because that happened and it was so dramatic. I focused on it intensely and it defined me for probably 6 or 7 years after that. And yeah, that was a mistake. But I mean, the panic of it was, just so visceral for me. So, yeah.
Well, we know you're hard on yourself, but I will say from the experience of working for people that are under extreme pressure and people like the what you get from that, like people are extremely gracious when they understand just the tiniest bit of this is a crazy situation that I would never be in or understand being in. And so I think people probably gave you more grace than you're giving yourself.
When I run into folks on LinkedIn who I used to work for during that period of time, I try and apologize. Yeah. And sometimes people have responded positively and sometimes they ignore me, understandably. But yeah.
So the last thing we do on this podcast is we get Callie to wrap up wrap the summary up. There is a phrase in my head. There's a phrase in my head that if Callie doesn't say, I will be gobsmacked. So we'll try that in a second. But the last bonus question.
No pressure, Callie. No pressure.
Yeah. The last question is the bonus question. See where you go on our leaderboard of what's been your longest commute, and it has to have been like a regular commute. We can't just say, I had to fly to Berlin for work for one work trip. It's like on a regular basis, what was your longest commute?
I opened up an office in Wilmington, Delaware, and I would have to drive from New York City to Wilmington, Delaware. It's near Philadelphia. So New York to Philadelphia once a week. But I have
How long did you have to do that?
It was a couple of years. Yeah. I really didn't like it. Yeah. And I discovered that people in Wilmington hated me.
So it made the drive over there all that much better. That's a 3-hour drive, my friend. In New York is having a little bit of a traffic. It's south of Philadelphia as well. It's not even like you're just going to north of Philadelphia. You've got to go all the way around Philadelphia to get to Wilmington.
Yep.
No, thank you. So we're 3 hours on the drive. That's like we do have one that is like almost insurmountable in terms of that journey, because they were like, what was it, Callie? Like for
Minneapolis to London every other week.
Yeah, for like we did the math on it as well, and just like the
like
hours,
3 years, something like that.
Crazy. So, but I think you're up. I think you're probably, with that, you're in kind of top 3 territory, my friend. Not that it's a good thing, to be honest, but
well, I now have organized my life so I can walk wherever I have. Like I have an office that's not in my house because we're in a new town and I want to actually meet people, but it's a 7-minute walk. Yeah. No, that I can.
3-hour drive.
No, never. Yeah. An hour commute is like a month out of your life every year. Yeah. So.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that. I just said to a client, it's like, yeah, I'll come to your office 5 days, 5 days a week, for this 1 week in December.
Well, 1 week in December, that's 10 hours. You can do that.
Yeah, I know, but also I'm like, that's that is 10 hours. Sorry, I was trying to do that, but of course it's 10 hours. I was like, but that's 10 hours I haven't been doing for quite a while now, that I like, it's going to be a real shock to the system. Yeah, I don't know. I used to do phone calls in the car all the time. It'd be the time where I'd catch up with friends, with family. I'd have great conversations, car conversations, and they don't happen anymore. So maybe that's what I'll do that week. I'll do a lot of calls. Do
you know the exercise audiobook study?
No.
This university gave people MP3 players with really, really addictive books on audiobooks on them. And they had 3 groups. One, you can only listen while you're on a machine. 2, here's some MP3 players, use them whenever you want. And 3, no MP3 players. Those were the study. And the people who could only listen while they were exercising became exercise fanatics. So maybe just really good, exciting audiobook that doesn't require too much thought, like a thriller, might be your thing. Yeah.
That is literally something I have never tried, because I'm not a book person. And I like the podcasts I listen to, because podcasts aren't the same, because I get so involved. Okay, so Toby's homework. Toby's got homework. Great. I do a podcast now where I get allocated more work. Fantastic. Thank you, Peter.
For your drive. It's entertainment. It's,
Oh, okay. I thought. Oh, okay. Then that is fine. I thought you were telling me to like. Anyway.
No, not exercise. No, use the methodology to make the commute not suck. That's all.
I've got to go drive for 10 hours in this week, and now you want me to go?
You want me to work out? Screw you!
Come on, yeah. You are the worst boss. You're right. Okay, Callie, we're gonna head over to you to wrap up this ep. What do you think of Peter and Peter's career?
Been all over the place.
No, I mean, I think first we've got to give Peter a chance to give a little information, because we skipped that at the beginning. So, or did you want me to wrap up first before we do that?
Let's do the wrap up, and then we'll do the. Where can people find you? And what do you do?
Yeah. Okay. Want to make sure we get a chance for Peter to talk about Peter. This is really hard for me, because I knew that I was going to learn so many things, and I've been looking forward to this for so long that it did not disappoint in any way, shape, or form. But how to summarize the just wisdom that you have, and that I feel for so long after every time we connect, I continuously reference back to our conversations, and I feel like this is no different. And I'm really excited that not just Toby, but anybody who happens to stumble upon this podcast episode or found it on LinkedIn has that opportunity to learn from your incredible wisdom.
Oh, thank you. But I just have to, I said something before, but I want to vocalize it. I think you guys are some of the coolest people I know. And I want to say why, because it's important. Because now, this, just take the next words out of my mouth as an extreme compliment, because it is. You both are incredibly weird, and you're unabashedly yourself. And, and I love it about you guys so much. Like, I don't believe that the 3 of us haven't gotten to speak, because I just think it's so cool. You are just so much you. and I admire it, and I'm trying to emulate it. So good on you. And it's why I think you're awesome. And I want you to know.
Well, if I know Callie, and me and Callie being very similar, we do not know how to take compliments. So cheers, mate. That was very nice of you. Let's do the awkward thing and make a joke about it. No, I appreciate it. Again, we'll go back full circle. A lot of Wisconsin kind of chat happening in my Instagram at the moment. And there is just this whole thing where these two guys are in a restaurant just saying, I don't want to inconvenience you. I don't want to. Can I have some more silverware? I'm not going to ask for more silverware. I don't want to inconvenience you. But yes, we appreciate it. God, look at you're literally making me trip over my words. I don't know what to say.
Awesome.
Thanks, Dad. It's a compliment I never got. Therapy. That's where that should be going, not on this podcast. Anyway, Peter, what do you do and where can people find you?
I am a public speaker, and I teach leaders how to thrive in the midst of incredible disruption. PeterLaughter.com is my website, and LinkedIn. I'm pretty much, I think there's maybe 2 Peter Laughters on the planet, and I'm one of them. So, yeah.
You just described what you did. I think this is the incredible thing about you. Like you have this ability to just like say things very short and succinct, and you just go, yeah, I get it. You needed no more than that. But the other thing is that this whole podcast episode is a huge testament to what you do. Like there are those breadcrumbs of everything that you've done, your experiences, the huge amount of self-awareness that you have for change and empathy and understanding is like, well, there would be no one else I would trust on the planet other than maybe the other Peter Laughter, but I don't know who that is.
He's in Australia, to do that. Yeah.
The thing I will leave you with, you should look up a guy called Dave Gorman. He's a British guy if you've not heard of him before. And so Dave Gorman is a pretty weird, random name that doesn't happen so often. So he'd had a TV show, and all he was going to do was try and find all the Dave Gormans in the world. And that was like his breakout kind of comedy show that he did. So I'd love to see a series where you go and find all the Peter Laughters in the world, and then you organize like a big laughter party.
It's like one episode, I think, like me flying to, it's a stage name. No. All right. Well, yeah.
Excuse to go to Australia. Take it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the first time I get a speaking gig in Australia, I'm looking that dude up though. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so if you want to hook up with the OG Peter Laughter, peterlaughter.com, find him on LinkedIn, because if you are not absolutely enthralled and amazed about how all that experience comes together into what Peter does, then you're not worth knowing, because you're just an amazing guy. There's a reason we like talking to you, buddy. Callie, you got anything to say? We can throw any more compliments at Peter before you let him go.
I think I've like the shade of pink that I became, I hope was visible to you, that transformation. No, I'm so grateful for your time and the opportunity to learn even more from you.
I love hanging out with both of you anytime. Yeah.
Peter, it's our pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Didn't disappoint.
Okay.
Didn't disappoint.
What? I didn't? Okay, it was like, what was I supposed to say?
So it was like self-awareness is like the thing that is like he has such a huge amount of self-awareness to pause and reflect. Doesn't necessarily mean it's in the instant, right? That you're self-reflecting in that moment and self-aware in that moment, but certainly even way down the line, still being able to reflect on in that way. And you know what Peter's there talking about leadership is like none of the leaders. And this is why I genuinely said what I said, that I imagine Peter now for sure would be a great boss because of all of those experiences and that self-awareness, which, like I say, 75% of the bosses I've worked for do not have that. But they also don't think they need it either because they're bosses, so they don't need it. And this crazy world we live in. But to also Peter's point, that kind of the ecosystem of work is primed for leaders to be like that. And so you can't go... There's no amount of there is a good amount of leadership training that might help with that, but it's the systemic change and behavioral change that you've got to blend together. It's not one or the other. It's both. So Fascinating. I have spent all day on trains, planes, and automobiles today, and I came to this podcast and I am drained, I am tired, but now I am reinvigorated, and I will not be able to go to sleep for another couple of hours now. So thanks for that, Peter. I'm desperately in need of sleep, and now you've taken my sleepiness away from me by just such an enthralling conversation. Callie, are we doing another one next week?
Are we?
We are.
We totally are, because I will be on the road doing it again from Madison, Wisconsin.
Cheese curds for the win. Will you be having cheese curds?
I don't know. It's a wildest conference, so I'm hoping there's cheese, but they maybe won't because it's a wildest conference.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? The cheese curds and wellness don't really go together. But we have got a fabulous guy called Nick Halder joining us, who's based here in the UK. I've known him for quite a while, and he's a very cool dude. He has his own podcast, the Curiosity Quotient, which is very good. The thing I like about Nick is that the way he approaches conversation is so different to how we approach it. So, like, he goes really deep, has these deep, meaningful conversations with people. Not that we don't, but like he has this kind of style, which I'm really looking forward to. I think it'll be a very different energy, and I think that we've had that in a number of podcasts, right? That we have different energies and experiences, and it just transforms into these really beautiful conversations, which I'm super appreciative to be able to do these awesome conversations with my very good friend from America. Because I was going to say North Dakota, and then I was like, no, I get it wrong every single time. I will just say Moorhead.
It's funny that you remember that, but not Minnesota, but I'll take it.
Yeah, well, the less said about Minnesota, the better, because the Packers absolutely annihilated the Vikings. Yeah. The Vikings are awful. Everyone hates the Vikings. And I will leave with this. The skull, the kind of Nordic clap. The Packers, I think we got a turnover, and they went all the Packers defense, just getting all the Packers fans to do that. And the Vikings did not like it.
That's brutal.
I was just like, wow. I've never seen the Packers do that. And I was like, that is so good. And our friend, one of our partners in crime, Mary, was at that game as well. We were messaging each other on WhatsApp while that game was happening. So it all comes together. So you'll be live from Madison. I will have just got back from running a conference for kids just about to leave school, wanting to get into the digital industry. So just doing that. So we're gonna have a lot to talk about next week. So we should rest up. We should get out of here and see everybody next time.
See you next week.
Bye.